Alright, something we want to talk about that is definitely somewhat important is talking about the linkage that goes from the foot pedal control on the tractor back down between the brake housing and transmission housing all the way back down to the arm, which ultimately attaches and controls onto the power shaft. It's definitely important to note when assembling that the rod here is turned this way and facing, the end of the rod faces in toward the hydraulic line, and it gets a cutter key through the hole in there ultimately. If you do it the other way, it will rub on the transmission housing and actually interfere. It could be made to work, but certainly there could be issues with interference there. So also, while we're in this area, we'll note, depending on when we make final adjustments, there is a quadrant here and a pin that actually, turn on my light there, there's a pin that rides from the pedal down, and there's actually a spring inside of here. That's basically, there's a notch in the quadrant, so when we shut it all the way off, it pops out and it locks the brake, and that's ultimately what, if everything is adjusted right, ultimately what locks the power shaft in the brake position and keeps it from spinning. On this particular model, this lever right here is actually what manually engages and disengages the power shaft. On a 720, for instance, there's a shaft that comes up in the same area, but it doesn't have a handle on it. It just has a flat end on the shaft. You could use an adjustable wrench to manually engage it and disengage it, but only when the engine is off. So that kind of covers this, certainly this portion. It's also important to note that when we look at this arm and the jam nut, that you free everything up while you have it off, so it makes adjusting so much easier. Otherwise you'll be taking it all off again. And by the way, that's a 9/16 nut. Definitely something that I find useful to keep on hand in the shop for working on 2-cylinder John Deeres is 9/16 hardware, lock nuts and several nuts. Just a little tip, saves me a lot of time going to the hardware store or my dealer to get a 9/16 bolt nut or what have you. So we'll get on to installing the power shaft now.